Well, hello everybody. It is Rob back with another episode for your enjoyment, or I don't know, this episode might not be so enjoyable. um it depends on who you are, I guess. But I wanted to jump into this topic because I've seen a lot of people discussing it recently on other podcasts. And since Netflix released the documentary, which I had a chance to watch and kind of get a more clearer understanding, and that is the Manti Te'o story. And the Netflix documentary is part of the Untold series called The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist. Pretty much they couldn't find any other title besides just, well, we'll just put the blatant obvious out there. So here's a little backstory, obviously, for those that need a little catching up or those that maybe don't know at all, even though I think this was a pretty wide story. Manti Te'o was a football player for Notre Dame, Fighting Irish. He was one of the top at the time. He was in his senior season. He was an absolute star. He was a Heisman candidate, which is the biggest trophy you can win as an individual in college football is Heisman. He won a list of other awards that mostly go to like defensive players, players with good character, good standing in the league, stuff like that. So he was a pretty solid guy. And during the season, there was a moment where his grandmother had passed away. And then he had also said that his girlfriend passed away. Now, of course, his girlfriend happened to be this catfish, as he never met her in person. And basically, a lot of people were just kind of, they put a spin on it. Like with sports, they love to put the story behind it. They love to have that kind of feel good story, like, oh, he is dealing with so much trauma, but yet he has bounced back and become such a major star, right? That's what makes sports fun, is some of these stories, these interesting backstories that really create a personality on the field. Whether you like the person or not, at the end of the day, everybody's going to have a backstory. Now, the tough part was around the time that they were doing the awards and stuff like that. The report came out from Deadspin, basically stating that the Lene Kakua, that was reportedly Manti Te'o's girlfriend, does not indeed exist. Instead, it was a profile created by this Renaya. I can't say his last name. And basically, it was just like, he had he created multiple profiles in his time. Like, he created a family for this girl and everything on Facebook, so it's kind of wild. But anyway, so Manti Te'o supposedly was talking to this person online, thought it was a girl, but it was actually this Renaya. He even left voicemails on Manti Te'o's phone calls and stuff like that. He talked like a girl. He really did. He had a great great vocal impersonation of a female. So, you can listen to some of the voicemails on YouTube. They played him in the documentary and stuff like that. So, yeah. And, basically Manti Te'o stated in the documentary that, when he found out, like everybody else found out, because everybody kind of found out around the same time, he didn't really know what to say. He didn't know how to address it. He was like, well, I'm just going to kind of keep it under wraps right now. I'm not going to talk about it. If they ask me, whatever, So he kind of held in this story for a bit. And then, of course, everybody kind of went out and really tore him apart. There was a lot of people saying that he was a closet homosexual. A lot of people just saying that he was in on the hoax to create this big story, all this thing. Like, So the great thing about this documentary is it clears it up because they get all sides of the story. They talk to the guys from Deadspin that did this, which They do a lot of good stories at Deadspin. I'm going to say that. Can't necessarily say that this story was positive in a lot of ways. Although I think at some point it was going to come out at some point, but again, this is just what happened. So anyway, so they bring all these guys on there. They bring coaches. They bring his family. They have the Renaya come on to the documentary to discuss things. Now he identifies as a trans female and changed Renaya down to just Naya. Which this is one of my biggest gripes about this is like right at the start of the documentary, they're like, oh, before we were not aware of the change in gender. They put out this thing about Renaya, and it's like, honestly, do we really have to show respect to this person just because they decided now to classify themselves as something else? Even though we all know that they still did something absolutely horrible and kind of ruined somebody's life for a long period of time and left this permanent stain on them. I mean, like, honestly, can we seriously consider any sort of respect for this person? No. To me, no. But they put out the graphic anyway, which is funny because it's like Netflix is trying to be woke as best as humanly possible. But it doesn't even matter. Like, it really doesn't even matter. Because this person is awful. This Renaya is a horrible human being. And the thing is, like, Catfish, obviously, there used to be a television show on MTV. I think a lot of people probably know about it. It's something that does happen. And it happens on a daily basis, I think. There's people out there creating fake profiles in order to engage in some sort of conversations, whether it be just friendly chat or even relationships, things like that, to kind of feel different. And I'm guessing, and that's the big thing with this Renaya character, what he said on this documentary under the new Naya. I'm still going to call you Renaya. I'm sorry. That's what I kept hearing in the documentary. Basically stating I didn't feel comfortable in my own shoes. My family were all pretty much football players, and I just wasn't feeling that, and all these different things. So ultimately, they were having some sort of personality crisis. They didn't want to expose themselves into the public and into their family so that maybe they would get disowned. And I don't know how culture is over there with the Pacific Islanders. I don't understand because I don't know enough. But from what I read and what I've heard from Manti Te'o too, was like, hey, I grew up, a loyal Christian. I basically love God, love your family, and I loved football. He grew up a pretty good life, and from what his father said, is Manti was basically a very, very well disciplined person, and still is to this day. Now, the great thing is, I'm glad that they gave this opportunity to everybody to kind of share their story. No one, and I swear, nobody should be looking at this Renaya in any sort of like remorse. I get it. It's a long time ago. People make dumb mistakes. But this was a mistake that this person knew was wrong, and they continued to do it. Almost like, oh, I know this famous person, and this famous person believes that I'm in a relationship with them, and they think I'm a woman. It's like this whole game. It's this big game. Now, what I remember about Manti Te'o was his performances on the field. I remember because Notre Dame football at the time was kind of going through some weird spots. They were kind of playing average football for a number of years there. It wasn't looking good. And I remember this Manti Te'o. I thought, when I've seen the highlights and I've watched some games, I thought, yeah, this kid's good. No doubt about that. He's going to be a damn good NFL player. He's very talented. And basically like they just lifted Notre Dame's success. The Fighting Irish had not been really a dominant team at that point in a number of years. Um, since then they've been okay. That's the one thing I can say. At least in recent times, they've been pretty solid. But I think the story was a nice kind of uplifting thing for the football team. And when it turns out that it's all false, and well, when push comes to shove, you got to start looking and thinking, "Uh-oh, what do we do now? Do we just step on a landmine?" Because that's ultimately what happens. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Manti Te'o should at all feel exonerated by this. I know he in the documentary, spoiler alert, yeah, he does say that he forgives Renaya. And that's just the person he is, but I think for a lot of people it's like, well, this is on your life forever. People are not going to forget this. I think it kind of got pushed to the side for a long time until this documentary came out. Now people are like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." You know. And yes, it was a tragic hoax. Because it was all over sports media everywhere. But unfortunately, I don't feel like there's any sort of justice done here. Because Manti Te'o, his reputation as an individual was crushed. He was treated unfairly, and he deserves a lot of restitution for what he went through. Major media sources saying just disparaging things about him and his lifestyle, and personally, you got a lot of lawsuits on your hand. I'm sure he doesn't really care about the stress of all of that. Maybe he just wants to live a quiet life, and I don't blame you. I really don't. But I think at the same time, you kind of have to look and think, I didn't deserve any of this. I didn't. I worked my ass off to be a dominant player. I wanted to create a future for myself. His NFL career didn't last all that long because, as explained in the documentary, he started to kind of have a lot of anxiety, and he felt like he was on an island all the time. So he was never able to focus in on the game, and that ultimately impaired him from performing well. I remember he played for the Chargers. He played for the Saints for a little bit too, but he played for the Chargers, and I thought, okay, let's see what he's got. And it just didn't work out that well, unfortunately. His career didn't pan out the way that he had anticipated. And again, a lot of this has to be drummed up to Renaya. And the big thing is with Manti Te'o, and the reason why I bring this story up today is because a guy like this, who did nothing but respect people, he showed all sorts of class and just he showed a very solid sense of character. He was a good guy through and through. Loved his family, loved his life, and he lived to succeed. But in the blink of an eye, that all flipped on him. And believe it or not, all of this started, and they explained this well in the documentary, all of it started was because Manti Te'o started having a few conversations with this fake profile, this Lene. And eventually there came a time where she was in some distress moments, and he, reached out and said, "Hey, I'm here to help. I'll hear you. I'll listen to you." That's all it took. A guy just doing something nice for somebody. He reached out, and it all went south. He had a lot of ups because he thought he was in a good relationship. And, I know during the thing he kept saying, "I want to meet you. I want to meet you," all this stuff. But again, none of that happened because it was fake. And this guy who has just been walked on Now, coming on this documentary, and if you don't, I get it. Okay, if you don't feel bad for somebody like this because you don't know him, okay, so be it. But what I feel bad about is the fact that this happens in all sorts of different varieties of life. People get walked on. People get disrespected by being nice, by being good human beings. They get walked on and treated like garbage. And it's awful because they didn't do anything to deserve it. They did nothing besides being good people. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't forgive those that have done you wrong? I don't know. I mean, that's left up for your own personal judgment. If you feel the need to want to give yourself an opportunity to kind of relieve that stress and that weight on your shoulders of holding that constant anger and just that pain that you've gone through. That's completely up to you whether or not you want to forgive. But I always tell people, don't forget. Because if you forget, you're doomed to repeat it. Kind of like history. And I think the big thing with Manti Te'o is a good-hearted person basically got screwed. Now, did it screw up his chance in the NFL? I don't know. I mean, he kind of said that really had to do with just everything, you know, the belittling and all these people that don't know a damn thing. And this is the truth, because I have arguments about this all the time. People that don't know anything sometimes say the most. When all Manti Te'o really wanted to do was just be a good guy. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to be included in on this awesome opportunity. His teammates treated him kind of distantly. You know, they didn't really show him a lot of love. These are his words. He felt singled out a lot. And again, he felt like he was on an island. No. I can understand partially where he's coming from. I can't understand the catfishing part, but I can understand the being on an island part. I've been there. It happens to me more often than you would think. So I completely understand his mentality going into that thinking, you know, all I want to do is be nice. And I'm kind of in the same boat. You know, I want to be a nice guy. I want to be there for people. I'm not all the time, for the love of God, not all the time, because it does get stressful. But I'm saying you want to be a good person. You know, they tell you all the time, it's easy to be good. But the thing is, sometimes people take advantage of that. And they see your generosity and they utilize it and they tear it down, man. They step on you like you're a rug and it just sucks. It sucks. You know, it happens. It happens. There's a lot of part of me that's why I kind of feel for this story, because I've been there. I've been in that position where you're stuck and you don't know what to do. You're nervous to make these decisions and make these certain calls because you don't know what the response is going to be. It could be negative, which it ended up becoming that way. And it could have been positive, which you think in your mind, you're thinking, no way is anything ever going to be positive if I start speaking up. You know, and that was his whole thing. He had a chance to bring it up, but he didn't. He had a chance to bring it because he was told around the time when the Heisman Award ceremony was going on, kind of, I think within the days that will come, he was told that this girlfriend was actually alive. She wasn't dead. So he had a little bit more of a happiness. He was like, okay, perfect, you know, but he didn't know what to say. He didn't know if he should bring it up at the pressers and things like that. He didn't know what to do. He had no clue. He was so emotionally tangled up. He had no clue what to say. And I've been there. I've been in that position where it's like you want to sit and you have so much to say, but you just can't anticipate the reaction. You don't know what's going to happen. And that is the really tough part of being a good guy. Because you get fed up. You get to a point. Now, I know with this, it wasn't that he was fed up. It was more of just that nervousness of, oh, are they going to break down my whole story now? And they're, cause obviously, if he would have said that, people would have started investigating and wondered, oh, did he just make this whole story up the whole year? Like, of course, that's 100% what they're going to do. Because they did it. They decided to look in on him anyway. They decided to research about this guy. And they found this out. And I'm not saying Deadspin's in the wrong for doing this because they're doing their job. They wanted to make sure, hey, we got a tip. We just want to know this is real. Somebody said, I know who the real person is, and it's not a girl, it's a dude. But anyway, you get a fear of speaking up. And it just doesn't happen to everybody. I know there's a lot of people that have no fear in saying whatever the hell's on their mind. And that can be harmful too. I'm not saying that's always good. That can be really harmful. But what's also harmful is not speaking up and not standing up for yourself. And not being that guy that can say, no, I'm not taking this. I've been nice. I have been absolutely nice, and I have been as classy as a human being as I can be. Think about this. The year Manti Te'o was up, it was 2012's college football season. Manti Te'o lost the Heisman Award trophy to an individual by the name of Johnny Manziel. A guy who I don't believe I need to discuss much because I think a lot of people know about him. They know about his history. They know how much of just trouble he was really. He won the award. Now, based on performance, yes. Would Johnny Manziel fit that award a little bit better? Yeah. Typically, performers that are excelling will get that award. Manti Te'o wasn't necessarily the best defensive player for that award, but he had a great story. And he didn't want to ruin that. He didn't want to ruin his opportunity to potentially take something home. So I think when he lost the Heisman, he knew in his mind, I should come clean, and I should. But it all came out eventually. It didn't matter. It all came out. And he got the witch hunt. And he got it on him. Bad. And I think in his case, it's similar in the fact that there's the fear of speaking up when you need to. It would have, at the end of the day, it would have done harm either way, no matter which way he was going to slice it. It would have been bad. He could have said, yeah, she's alive. And maybe nobody would have looked into the fact that it was fake. I think at some point, like I said, it was going to come out. But at this point, it wasn't yet. It was getting there, but it wasn't yet. It wasn't fully exposed. But I think if he would have said something, maybe people would have backed off. They would have said, wow, what a complete and utter jerk. He lied about this whole year. He could have dealt with that, I think. But he knew that was maybe something that would have been harmful. But what ended up happening was even worse. And that's what happens. It's an unfortunate circumstance. I'm impressed by Netflix for doing these untold documentaries. So far, they've been okay. I've watched a few of them. I've enjoyed a few of them. So I can't complain. This one just hits closer to home because I feel for the guy. I do. Um, but anyway, just wanted to touch base on that because I think a lot of people are on my side on this one. There's a lot of guys that uh, share the same kind of sentiment with me on his story and what happened in his career because you never want to see somebody with so much potential and so much upside just get absolutely downtrodden in the media and stuff like that. It sucks, you know. If you deserve it, you deserve it, and you're gonna get it. But I mean, if you don't deserve it, what the hell is the point? You know, a lot of people could have said, "Oh, well, we'll take his side." He probably didn't know, but a lot of people wanted to spin the narrative and say, "Oh, yeah, he knew, he knew." Now he's no longer a hero. He's one of the most hated. In fact, that was one thing that they brought up in the documentary was he was one of the most hated athletes in the world. Like, what? Think about the people. It was funny because they brought this up, and I thought, oh my god, you can't, you can't be serious. There was a poll done back in in 2013. Forbes did this poll, and they asked who are the most disliked athletes in American sports. Manti Te'o and Lance Armstrong were side by side. Lance Armstrong is certainly, does he deserve to be hated? Yeah, I mean the guy openly did PEDs when he was Mr. Hero. Tiger Woods was even up there. There are some other guys up there too, like Michael Vick. Michael Vick makes sense. All right, the guy did a dog fighting ring. That makes sense for all the dog lovers out there. See, that makes a ton of sense. But Manti Te'o, because what? Because you disagree with what happened? I mean, like Tiger Woods, yeah, what he did was screwed up because, he was having affairs with multiple women while still married. Look at the people that are not even on the list. It's amazing. There was no O.J. Simpson. I think it was for active athletes, but I don't know. But I'm saying, think about all the other athletes that you could have listed. And Manti Te'o is up there because of this. That's how strong people put themselves in there. There's a lot of people that said, oh, of course, Michael Vick is the most hated. Well, yeah, and I understand that, and I wouldn't blame anybody for feeling that way. But it's like, why? Why put him as the most hated American athlete when he's one of the most kindest individuals you would ever meet? It'd be different if you're basing it off of, oh, he played for a team I hated, so I don't like him. That would be a whole different thing because at least you can respect the person as a man, but you can hate them for the fact that they play somewhere where you don't like. Kind of like Aaron Rodgers, right? I respect him as an individual, but I don't like him as an athlete because he plays for the Packers. Plain and simple. So it's just amazing to me. Just amazing to me that this is the type of reaction that you get. And Netflix gave both Manti Te'o and this Renaya or Naya, whatever. I don't know, whatever. It's stupid. They gave them both a good amount of time to tell their stories. And then a bunch of other random folks too, but they gave them a lot of time to tell their stories. And it's like they almost wanted people to feel bad for the Renaya character. Because, oh, now I transitioned to being a trans female. Like, so what? So what? If Jeff Epstein would have, if he would have said, oh, now I'm a trans female now that I'm in prison, Is that going to change the way you look at an individual? Or Donald Trump, for all the liberals out there. If he decided all of a sudden he's going to say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm a trans female," is that going to change the way that you perceive him already? Because if so, then you are really, really dumb. You know, it's like Bruce Jenner, becoming Caitlyn Jenner, identifying now as a woman, as a trans woman. You can't erase the accolades. You can't erase any of the things that Bruce Jenner represented at one point. Just under a different name now. That's it. Still a major Olympic athlete. Still a big sports figure in America. See what I mean? It works both negatively and positively. And for this, it's like they gave it that kind of like, oh, they showed the video there of getting the hair done and all this stuff, having a good time. It's like, I'm not saying you shouldn't live a good life. I'm not saying you shouldn't live life like you want to. Okay, go live life. But you need to understand that we're not going to look at you in a hero's welcome. That just isn't what's going to happen. Just not. Are people, after this is all, kind of spun out and done? Yeah, I mean, most people are going to forget. And be like, well, who the hell is Renaya? They're never going to remember that. But it's at this point in time now, with the documentary being the way it was, you want to tell both sides of the story. I get it. But let's really put into perspective how just horrible you made one person's life and how the other, yeah, their name was out in the media, but nobody was paying attention to you. They were paying attention to Manti Te'o. They didn't care about you. Were people around you? Yeah, there was some media around you, but guess what? More people are around Manti than you, because guess who's the bigger name? So guess who got the biggest brunt of that? In fact, I don't even remember what your name was until the documentary came back. I do remember Manti Te'o. So that's that. I wanted to discuss that to get this, and that took up a lot of this episode. So I'm glad I got to discuss that and rant a little bit. But I want to jump into something else. And for those that are still listening, if you happen to be listening on this channel, you know that there's another show on this channel called The Strange Exchange. And I would assume you found this show based on that show. So, because I can't imagine people found my show first and then went to that. I can't. But as you know, I do a show, A Strange Exchange, with Andrew. And we haven't put out an episode in some time. And I've actually received like 2 messages, not a lot, but I received 2 messages just asking me like, hey, what's going on? Are you guys going to do any more episodes? What's the deal? And I figured, well, if 2 people can ask, I guess that's enough for me to address it. Even if 1 person asked, I would have addressed it. Because it's been like almost 4 weeks now since we released an episode. And that episode didn't do like too hot. It wasn't necessarily successful. But so be it. But we're nearing 50 episodes. That was kind of the weird cutoff. We're nearing 50 episodes, and now we're on that, like, what's going on? And I guess the best way to address it is Andrew and I, we got into a little bit of a spat over some stuff. And I look at it, it started over nonsense. It did. and I'll openly say it was nonsense. It was nonsense. Initially, I was laughing about it, and then it just kind of it built and it turned into something even worse. But it was there was a lot of things that kind of pent it up, and certainly we both have ourselves in this one, and we have to just kind of look at it and say, well, what can we do, right? And basically, we decided to take a break just for the time being. Well, I decided to take a break. I'm not going to put him in that picture. Um, just because I put on the pants and said, yes, I'm taking a break. But I decided to do more of these shows, my own solo thing. So I'm sure that looks kind of like, what's going on? And not saying that I'm cutting Andrew out of anything because, quite frankly, he is a good dude. He is. And I think the thing with the Strange Exchange is we've seen so many ups and downs with it that it's just like it hurts. It does. Because you think, well, one episode gets like a lot of views and then the next one doesn't. You kind of get deflated. And you wonder where your support beams are. You wonder, like, okay, what are we going to do to get more? How do we engage an audience? That's all we're wondering. And there's a lot of topics we talk about, that people are not interested in. Fair enough. But at the end of the day, I think we put a good spin on every episode. But we got into a little argument that turned into a big argument. It ended kind of mutual. I mean, I can't say it ended negatively. I mean, it was negative at the time, but it was like, hey, I mentioned that I needed to take some personal time away. And I focused more on this now, which is why I'm doing episodes sort of every week. I started out 2 a week. I'm down to 1 a week now. I mean, I don't know where I'm going to be at. I can put out 3 episodes a week, but I'm just focusing on this for the time being. But the reason I wanted to address this is because no, it's not dead. The show is alive. And it will return in the time being. I don't know when. I can't give you a timetable of like, hey, this is when it's going to happen. I can't give you anything like that. Just because I know we were nearing 50 episodes and we had a wonderful surprise for everybody. And I think the really just odd thing about it was you look at any partnership in media, whether it be music, radio, TV, podcast, art, whatever the case may be. I don't know how many partnerships there are in art, but some partnerships go through those times where there's good moments and bad, and the bad moments sometimes outweigh the good because they cause those big rifts and they cause problems. And I'm going to take a lot of blame for this because I am somebody that I love this. I love this so much. I love being able to be able to just take a seat, turn on the microphone, and talk openly. Whether people care to listen to me or not, I guess whatever. But I love it. It gives me some sort of joy. And I'm not your typical podcast commentator either. Do I talk about trending topics? Absolutely. But guess what? I like to rant too. But I'm not going to talk about the topics that you typically hear, like COVID and Russia, Ukraine, and all this other political mumbo jumbo that's going on. Because I don't care to touch that base. And that's the same thing with the Strange Exchange. That's why it's fun to do. That's what makes it interesting. That's why we pick topics like cults and we pick all sorts of, mythology. We talk about different moments in history. We even just ramble on about our favorite movies, our favorite music, all sorts of different things. We ramble to have fun, not to put people in a bad mood. That is not the goal. That is not the goal with either show. This show, maybe, because I do rant a lot, but I always try to end positively. But the biggest thing is with the Strange Exchange, and what really is that I turned it into this big ordeal, and I made it an ultimatum. I put it into a spot where it's like, well, okay, I can walk away. I can either do this and accept the way things are, or I can walk away, take a break, come back at another time with a little more of a refresh button kind of feel, like, okay, yeah, we're good, we're good. Or I could have just quit, ultimately. Said, I'm done. But then I wouldn't be doing this. I would have put this on a different channel. But the real crappy part is there's just so much that went into that show and so much that was fun, and it was fun to do. And we're gonna get back there, I think, at some point. Um, the one thing is I can't stay mad for long. It's something that I can let it kind of sit in the pit of my stomach and just kind of stew for a little bit and be like, oh God, this is pissing me off. And then eventually, I might blow up. But at the same time, I know what's good. And what's good for me is being able to talk and being able to share some knowledge with people. Even if we're not even the best source, and I guarantee we are not the best source. But we certainly are a fun source. At least in some way. We're not pros. We're average Joes. Best way to put that. But we try. Like, that's the one thing. We try. You know what would make us happier is if people would support. That's it. No, you don't have to listen for the whole damn episode. I don't expect that. You can listen for 5 minutes. And if you don't get any joy out of it, don't listen then. That's fine. If you find some sort of joy, keep listening. You're probably going to keep finding more. I've heard a lot of positive things. I know I've heard some negative too. But I will say one thing. We've had a lot of good positive comments. A lot of good feedback saying, yeah, you guys have done really well. We've had some people say some things too that kind of threw me in for a loop because I was like, I don't remember this, but okay. But you know what? At the end of the day, our goal is to have fun, and that's what I steered away from. So I want to return to that. So I'm saying the Strange Exchange will be back. We will have 50 episodes. Don't know about after that. I would hope that more are going to be coming, but I couldn't tell you. I don't even know how many more episodes of this I'm going to do. I might wake up tomorrow and say, yeah, you know what? I hate it. I hate talking by myself. And it is kind of weird talking by myself, too. That's another thing that's kind of nice about the Strange Exchange. I'm not alone. But I just wanted to address that, kind of give people a little bit of an update on what's going on there. And, I've been dealing with my own personal issues, my own personal struggles. No, I'm not on heroin. Although sometimes it certainly seems as though I can be very dead some days where I'm just like, whatever. But, I see a lot of things, and there's a lot of negativity out there. That's the one thing, too, that sucks. And that's what really kind of weighs us down, is a lot of it. And that's kind of the biggest part of why we started the show in the first place. It's like we were both going through some really tough times in our life, and it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and have fun, right? Let's make the most of it. Let's enjoy this fun little new hobby, even though I think everybody and their grandmother's got a podcast now. But I don't care. I'll jump in. If we would have started this back in like the mid 2000s when we were teens, it probably would have been not so bad. I mean, we would have sucked, but it still would have been interesting to hear because there was really not a lot of big podcasts out at that point. So maybe we should have jumped on the gravy train a little bit sooner, but whatever. But anyway, so yes, we are going to come back at some point. Could be tomorrow, could be next week, could be next month, could be next year. Don't know. Probably not next year. It'll probably be sooner than that. But the point being is I don't know. Because we're both still, going on our own roads here to try to figure out our personal lives rather than just the podcasting life. This is kind of second fiddle most of the time. Sometimes third fiddle, depending on what's going on. third fiddle. God, that's such an old term. But you get the point, right? This is not the biggest priority, but we are going to continue to have fun because this is fun. This is our escape from the weird world that we live in. And I don't know if it's just me, but Baja Blast from Taco Bell, it feels like it's changing flavor. Does not taste the same. And that scares the hell out of me because I really enjoy it. And I know it's not going to be on shelves in a matter of time. So, if they're changing the flavor, maybe it's just that Taco Bell I went to. Maybe it's watered down. I don't know. I just took a sip of this stuff and it just tastes almost like diet. Anyway, I would like to end the show on a positive note. That's the biggest point, right? You always want to end on a positive note. No, I'm not going to talk about Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness. Doesn't apply to me. So for those that can enjoy it, enjoy it. It doesn't apply to me, so I don't really get any benefit out of it. I'm happy for those that can take advantage of it, though. Good on you. What I am going to talk about, though, is fantasy football and the intensity behind it. Yes, is it fun? Absolutely is it fun. But man, can it get real stressful real quick. And I just had the draft for our fantasy football league in this immediate group here. And we have a 12-team league. And I'll tell you what, it gets pretty tough in there, when you're trying to make picks and stuff, and you're thinking, I want to win. Because in our league, everybody puts in a certain amount of money, so there's a winning. And it's fun. It's a fun activity, fun thing to do. But it can get intense, and you notice that by like how some people get like, yeah, I'm gonna have the best team, and they'll do whatever it takes. I've seen some of the fantasy players out there, not just in my league's pretty quiet and tame. This year might be different, but last year it was pretty quiet and tame. But I've seen people get real angry about it. I've seen that happen, and it's scary. I get it. There's money on the line, but it's intense, man. People get intense about it. The wonderful thing about my team is I picked like a lot of guys that I did my research on, but I look at it and I'm thinking every year I've played in this in fantasy football, and I've done quite well for myself. But every year I'm always projected, because what they do on the ESPN fantasy app is they project based on like your team's players overall, like your players' overall projections, right? They project how many points they're going to get in the year. Every year, I'm always projected to go like last or second to last. I'm never projected to win. Never. Last year, I had the best record in the league with 11 wins and 3 losses. I was projected to lose pretty much almost every game. I started last season projected 12th in the league. I was going to finish dead last. Ended up with the best record in the league. I didn't win the championship, but I still did better than what ESPN thought I was going to do. This year, they're projecting me to go 11th. 11 out of 12. So second to last. I'm laughing at this because, like, why? Why does this happen? These players usually turn out to do okay. I'm not that bad. But it makes me look bad because I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell? There's people that are like ranked number 1 that don't know what the hell they're doing. And then there's some people that are ranked last and know everything and they end up winning it. Shocking. All it takes is an ankle injury and then your whole season's wrecked anyway. But I just love fantasy football, man. I love fantasy football for just the adrenaline rush. I don't even I still support a single NFL team as a fan, but in fantasy it's like, well, now I got to support these players, and they might play for a team I don't like Green Bay or something. It's like, okay, I have to at least like hope that they do well so that I can maybe have some success. And and like that's the fun part about fantasy football is you start to analyze players and you're like, I've never heard of this guy before, but now I know him and I'm gonna watch every move he makes. And if he gets hurt, I'm gonna be pissed. It's fun. It's a blast, and it makes football like a little more interesting, even for those that are not like avid fans. This can be a little bit fun for you because now you don't have to pay attention to every single game. No, you do not have to watch a single football game for the 3 hours that it is, and you don't have to watch games all Sunday. But you can at least pay attention, right, to the numbers. And I'm a betting man. I'll play, whatever. I'll try it out. It's fun for everybody if you can get into it. If you're not a sports person, then whatever. But I've seen even people that are not into sports get into fantasy football and enjoy it. Like the co-host of the Strange Exchange, Andrew. He's in my league. Last year, it was his debut in fantasy. He's never played before. He kind of had it rough. He didn't really know what was going on. And this year, I'm sitting there watching the draft. I'm thinking, oh my God, he is stacking a team. This guy has a great team this year. He's probably going to do something. And I thought, there's no way. Andrew's not even a big sports guy. He's really not somebody that watches avidly. He might watch a game here and there, but he's not into it as much as like I am and some other folks. But I'm watching this thinking, he must know something because he's picking some solid players. Maybe he's got a guide or somebody with him, but I don't know. It was a little shocking. So that's always fun. And the real fun part is whoever loses, whoever's last place in our league, is going to get a little fun gag gift. They have to showcase, whether it be at their house or around, where they have to wear it to certain get-togethers, whatever. It's going to be fun. So if you have a chance to play fantasy football, I recommend it. It's definitely not for everybody, but it can be for anyone because it's not super difficult. All you got to do is try. That's all you got to do. Just put your effort in. And if you're in a money league with some good cash, that's my goal every year is to win some money. I've done it once. In my 4 years of playing, I won a championship once. I've been good every year, but I've only won a championship once. I'm hoping I can do it again this year. But we'll see. I'm very humble when it comes to fantasy football until I have the best record, and then I'm not so humble. Then I become kind of an egomaniac. But anyway, that'll do it for this episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. And as always, you can stay a little strange. Maybe not so much. Just stay a little strange. Take care.